All right, great. So some things that we were hoping to talk about, and then obviously we've got a bunch of people connected here, and we really do want to hear from you also. And I see we've got some questions in here, so I'm going to try to jump back and forth to those as well. Okay, good. And I think we've got the desktop worked out. We've got Hillsborough here. So perhaps, Greg, as I'm talking, you can keep an eye on that, and vice versa. We can make sure that the questions are getting answered.
Okay.
Very important question about my canine friend. That's Olivia. Hopefully, she'll remain quiet during the during the presentation here. But what we wanted to talk with you about today. First of all, we want to give you a little bit of an update and talk about what is new in First Class 12.1. There are some very nice new features available there, so we're going to give you a quick overview and a demonstration on those features. We also want to talk a bit about what is happening with our companies. We've got some exciting news to announce there, and talk about what we can do. We're going to spend the bulk of our time, I think, really in a demonstration of the 12.1 features, and then we want to leave some time at the end for a little bit of Q&A, and we've got an important question for you, which is about what you'd like to see down the road from us. So that's really where we're headed. Let me start with the company update. So if you would, Greg, maybe jump to the next slide. So an interesting thing that's been happening, and actually it's kind of funny, over the years, I'd say every 2 years or so, Greg and I would meet up at some conference at NECC or one of the national conferences, and we'd have a conversation that went something to the effect of, hey, we're doing a lot of the same things, and we've got a lot of similar skills and presence. Maybe we should be looking at being one company instead of two. And we look at it and we talk it over for a while, and every couple of years we'd have this conversation. Kind of came to the conclusion, in most cases, that while we could combine companies, that the combined company wouldn't really be doing anything different than the two companies individually. And we're really not big enough that economies of scale. It's not like two banks that are merging where we've got a bunch of middle managers we can get rid of. So it really hasn't made sense. What is interesting is that back at the end of last year, that same conversation came up again. We began looking at it and determined that for the first time, while we still have a lot of overlap in terms of corporate culture and product expertise, we had each begun to specialize in some different areas. And what we recognized is that the combined company now has the ability to do a lot more than either one of our companies can do alone. And so we've continued to talk over the past several months and are moving toward a merger of the two companies. So you are the first to hear this really outside of those of us in the companies, those of our staff. But it is our expectation that within the next month or so we're going to have this finalized, and we'll have a new company. I guess we can roll out the new logo here. A new company called Aptiris, which we are very, very excited about. So some important things to note. First of all, for the time being, and even once the company is merged, we expect it is largely going to be business as usual for our existing customers. In that the folks that you've been contacting, you can continue to contact. We're continuing to focus heavily on first class and first class hosting. And if you're used to calling Kirsty or Stephen or Howard or whoever it is that your contact has been, we're all still here, and we expect that we're going to continue to serve you as we have in the past. So nothing really to worry about there. What it does do, though, is it provides us a number of benefits, and part of that may not be as critical up front for you, but I want to talk about it. One of those things that we can do as a combined company is it gives us the ability to pursue some new markets. And while all of you are existing customers for the most part, the reason why it's important to us is that we want to be able to continue to grow and to continue to support you. Obviously, in the education space, where we have a lot of our customers, it's become more and more difficult to pick up new clients. But what we see is that as a combined company, we have an opportunity with municipalities and legal and other business verticals where we're not competing with free. And First Class has a great story to tell, and we've got some new partnerships that I'm going to talk about that allow us to pursue those markets. So one of the things that the combined company can hopefully do that we couldn't do individually is stay around a little bit longer and continue to grow and thrive as opposed to just hanging on to to a vertical where it's becoming more and more difficult to acquire new business. We're jumping around a little here. I do want to talk about, though, some of the things that are going to affect our existing customers and some of the things that we can offer now that we haven't been able to do as individual companies. And the first of these really is related to our hosting. Both Aptiris and Kannon have invested pretty heavily in hosting over the last decade, or decade give or take a little bit. And we are continuing to have a lot of interest in sites that don't want to maintain the hardware in-house anymore, but they still like all of the benefits of first class. And so for the last several years, we've been doing a lot of work taking existing clients and moving them into our data center to give you the benefit of really a cloud-based service without having to abandon first class, which I think is really important. We're also bringing a lot of new clients this way. What's nice, and I'm going to pull up my own notes here, what's nice is that as a combined company, it means that we have much deeper resources. We have better ability to cover 24/7 support. We have better ability to spread out the load across our 3 data centers. And so we really think that the quality of our hosting is going to get even better. Not that that's been an issue, I think, for the most part in either case, but I think we've got a much stronger offering there. We also, as a larger company, have the benefit of being able to take advantage of volume licensing now across both companies, and that's going to help us to be able to keep costs down. So we want to remain cost competitive. So all of that ties together. Some other things that we're doing now, again, that we couldn't pursue as easily separately. We have a partnership now with a really top-notch voice-over IP provider, and this is exciting to us for a couple of reasons. One is that it means we can get into the provisioning of dial tone for anybody anywhere in the country, and we're seeing this across not only businesses and municipalities, but a lot of school districts are looking at what they're spending on phone hardware and realizing that it really doesn't make sense. They've got the infrastructure in place to support voice-over IP, and by having voice-over IP in the cloud, they can offload that hardware and have a lot of flexibility, which has been exciting. And one of the things that really clinched this for us is that the voice-over IP integrates fully with first class. So we can run first class voice services, tie it into the cloud-based voice-over IP offering, and we're good to go. The same offering, the same provider that provides us the VoIP also allows us to do things like SIP trunks and provide intranet. So we've got some interesting offerings there as well. We're able to get into things like cloud backup. And of course, the other area that we've spent a lot of time in is looking at particularly communications between teachers, students, and parents. And this is something that I think we've done a good job of using first class in private schools, but particularly in public institutions, we have not traditionally seen first class adopted for use in that particular way. And EDSB is a product that we've been working with heavily. I know we've got folks from Hillsborough County on, and they can maybe answer some questions if you've got any. But EDSB is really, it's a next generation learning management system that is designed specifically to bridge communications for your teachers, students, and parents. It's got a great administrative overview interface as well. And again, this is something that we're able to now pursue collectively and really work to grow our business and continue expanding our reach in terms of communication products. So this is all very exciting to me. Hopefully it's exciting to you too, and we're glad to take questions on this. I see we've got a couple questions related to the merger. One is, will our W-9 information change? We are actually, that is a detail that we're going to have worked out a week from tomorrow, is whether or not we'll need to change that, but we will get some communications out on that. It may be that formally what we're doing is keeping one of the existing companies, maybe that we have an entirely new entity, and so the W-9 will change for some of you on this call. So we'll get more information on for you on that. We've got one other here. Just want to see. Okay, I think that's it related to this. But if you have other questions about the merger, let us know, and we will continue on from there. Some other things that we're able to do in the merged company, again, just in terms of being able to expand our reach, is really ramp up the services that we provide. Let's move to the next. Oh, here we are. So one of the things that actually we've stepped up in recent months is helping sites, for example, take advantage of custom workflows custom forms within First Class. It was surprising to us to recognize how many sites know that you can build workflows in First Class, but haven't really taken advantage of it. And so we've got great resources and a number of people now with experience doing this where we can help you get that up and running. We've really reinvested with a lot of our clients in doing sort of a health checkup or system redesigns, which I think has been great. And we're going to try to step up some of our online training as well. We recognize that travel budgets have largely dried up, but there's still a strong need for ongoing training. And so we're putting together some programs so that we can do more of that online and hopefully serve you better in those areas. So that is largely where we're headed. Any questions before we move on and start showing some of the fun stuff?
Apparently not.
Okay.
Gary, before we go past this slide, I would like to talk a little bit about what the First Class health checkup is, because it may not be obvious from a single bullet. Many of you that have been running First Class servers at your own sites, and also many of you whose First Class servers are hosted in one of our data centers. It's been a while since anybody took a good hard look at how your First Class is set up. It may be that your First Class system has been through several different admins over time. It may be that your organization has gone through a number of systems change events over time. And so we're beginning to offer this First Class health checkup, which is in addition to something that both companies have offered for a while, which is essentially a server audit, where one of our techs will go through your server and make sure that you haven't done anything that you really wish you hadn't done, or make sure that you did do something that you'll be glad eventually that you had done. We're able now to go in and take a good hard look at your user group structure, the number of conferences that might be on your system, what they're being used for, are they being used in a way that best suits your organization. So we've got some folks on staff now who can spend some serious time taking a look at how you're organized and help you to make sure that you get the maximum from your First Class investment, not only from using things that you know about, but also making sure that you know about things that might be useful if you knew more about them. So you can reach out to us, and either Gary or myself or the different folks that you already know on the staff, Denise, Zanetta, and so on, and we'd be happy to talk to you about that a little bit. Now, what I'd like to do next, though, is I'd like to go back up. Gary cleverly skipped over to the stuff that he cared about and skipped right past the whole slide, which is the main reason that most of you folks are here, is to learn about First Class 12.1. So Gary kind of skipped past this fairly quickly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm going to forgive you this time, Gary. So there were some things we sat down earlier in the week, and we talked about what is there in version 12.1 that is most interesting, not only to us, but we expect to you folks as well. There are some new features, there are some new capabilities, and we have a kind of a short list that we'd like to touch on. And I am going to take a few minutes and show you some of this stuff once we get a little bit further along. So it's not going to be just Greg and Gary talking. It'll be we'll have a little bit of show and tell here as well. But some of the high points that we think are important. One backup thing that people have asked me over and over again since version 12 and 12.1 have come out, which is the client going to continue? Is the new FCWS, the First Class Web Services web interface, going to replace the client? And the answer to that is not anytime soon, really, for a couple of different reasons. One is that they really are two very different tools. But the client is going to continue, if for no other reason that there's not a good way to administer the First Class server using the web interface. One thing that's going to be interesting about the client, some of you have asked me about this particular one. The First Class 12 client isn't very friendly to the new Mac laptop retina screens. I've heard a number of complaints about that, and I agree. It's very unpleasant looking. So for a long time, the folks at OpenText were saying, "Well, we're not going to fix the client because the client's going to go away." But now they're saying, "No, wait a minute, the client's not going away." So they're rebuilding the Mac client for version 12.2, which they've announced for late summer, early fall of some year. So they are rebuilding the whole thing from the ground up in Cocoa, because one of the issues was that the old calls that they make don't exist anymore in the Mac OS. So there is going to be a new Mac client coming. So the client is going to continue with some development for the foreseeable future. One of the pieces of development that started me off on this is that the first-class web services, the new web interface, has a multi-word filter in its search, so that if you search for the word monkey, it will go through and find out every message that you have access to that has the word monkey in it. But if you put in the words monkey space C, then it will go through and it will bring back a hit list of just messages where both of those words appear next to each other. So there's a multi-word filter or multi-word search, and that has now been built into the 12.1 client as well. So the first-class search feature has been improved enormously. There's a couple other things that I think you'll find interesting. One is that they've added to the web interface. They've added CalDAV in the sense that you can subscribe for example, a Google Calendar to your first-class calendar. It's not bi-directional, but if you have a Google Calendar that's your school calendar, your organization calendar, or whatever use you might have for it, we can at least get those calendar events to appear in a first-class calendar. There's another thing. We haven't 100% got the wrinkles out of it yet, but there's another aspect of CalDAV which will allow you, probably by next week we'll have the wrinkles out of it, would allow you to do things like subscribe any CalDAV calendar to your first-class calendar for bidirectional eventing. I don't know if eventing is the correct word or not. But for example, I've long thought it would be really handy if I could synchronize my first-class calendar and my Mac calendar. And up until 12.1, that wasn't possible. Up until today, it's mostly possible, but by next week, we've identified a couple little wrinkles in the setup so that by next week, we would be able to say you can subscribe or you can synchronize your calendars on your desktop Macs or any device that supports CalDAV with your first-class calendar. Something that is coming along with that and has the same caveats in it is CardDAV, so that you can synchronize your Macintosh or iOS or Android, I think Android contacts with your first-class contacts without going through the first-class sync services. And again, that's not working 100% yet, but we're working closely with the developers to get the last couple of little wrinkles out of it. Some things that do work are WebDAV, which I'm very excited about. We've been using it a lot in-house. Aptiris and Kannon have been working very hard over the last 3 months to get the background work of merging our two companies together. And one of the things that we've been able to do is post spreadsheets up in the first-class web services interface and open those spreadsheets in Excel on a local computer, make changes and save them back in. And with any luck, I'll be able to show that to you in a few minutes. There also is a new thing in web services, not in the client, but there's a new thing in web services, which gives us the ability to add liking, thumbs up, thumbs down, and ratings, star ratings to posts in conferences and first-class communities by a simple admin setup. So that it's not automatically turned on in every conference or community, but it's there if you want it. So if you have a conference where you're trying to keep track of something by counting up who liked it and who didn't, or what the ratings might be. That's easy enough to turn on. And in both interfaces now, something that's been asked for a long time, it's possible to create a calendar task and then assign it to somebody else. And there's tracking built in so you can keep up to date on what their progress is. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second and see if I can figure out some of these questions that I'm seeing here. It's a bit, unfortunately, it's hard for us to unmute everybody so that you could go ahead and ask questions because there's too many.
Yeah, but we've got some here that are in writing, and that's probably the best way to get these. So one question that I'm seeing here is the new Mac client going to use the built-in Mac OS text editor and spell check?
Don't know. Good question though, but I'm going to guess yes, but I don't know. It's early enough in the development that we certainly can find out because they've just barely started working on it. We'll find out and we'll get back to you, Ron. Dave Hagan's question about now that school districts can no longer get E-rate reimbursement, do you plan to restructure the cost for schools? I presume you're talking about hosting, Dave, and the answer is we're taking a hard look at that. We have made our pricing as thin as we feel like we can going in, but also our pricing for schools was built based on the idea that some schools might be able to take advantage of E-rate. And so we're looking at it, Dave, but that's not the same thing as I'm saying, yes, your costs are going to go down because we have to make sure that that we're able to stay in business. And so we're taking a good hard look at that. We'll know more before we start sending out invoices in early July to schools. Kevin Keegan in Cambridge, your question, will 12.1 work on the archive server as well? The answer there is yes. In fact, the folks at OpenText recommend having a 12.1 executable on your archive server. I'm not sure that there are a ton of benefits yet, but there are two or three. One caveat there is that we've begun making available a self-service archive recovery tool so that your end users can go in and get things out of their own archive. And that doesn't yet work with the 12.1 archive executable. So if you want to make use of that, don't upgrade your archive to 12.1 yet. If you don't plan on making use of it, then sure, go ahead. There are a couple of improvements in how 12.1 works in archiving. And I'll tell you what, I'll send out. Presumably somebody will remind me that I said this, so we'll send out in our next newsletter what those things might be.
Actually, Greg, I think the most substantial, it's pretty easy. So the 12.1 server provides support for file sizes over 2 gig. And the primary reason that they're recommending that you run a 12.1 archive server is because if a message with a 2 gig or larger attachment comes in on your core server, you would then need a 12.1 archive server so that it can handle that large file also. But I believe in terms of structural changes, that's the big one.
Okay, thank you. I actually hadn't picked up on that.
Yeah.
So Laura Yelm has a question. Is the mobile app changing at all? Yes, in fact, there's now a new mobile app on all the mobile devices. The iOS app, and the old ones still work. They haven't been deprecated, but they've built a new app that runs on iOS, Android, and Windows 8. That's called First Class Go. So if you look at the App Store or the Google Play, or I don't know where you go look for a Windows phone, but there's a new app that's called First Class Go, and that exactly replicates the experience of logging in with a web browser in the First Class Web Services interface. So there's lots of improvements. All the social stuff is in there. The WebDAV stuff that I mentioned actually works. and it looks the way that it's supposed to. So yes, First Class Go. Take a look in the App Store. So I'm looking at Daniel Castillo's question. Did I hear you correctly? Did you say in a week's time that we'll be able to bidirectionally sync FC to Google Calendar? Almost, but not quite. Within a week, you'll be able to bidirectionally sync. And the only reason I say within a week is that there are a couple of little wrinkles of configuration that we haven't got fully worked out yet, but we're working on it every day. So I think we'll have it. And it's bidirectional to iCal on a Mac now, or it will be within a week, but it's not quite bidirectional yet to Google Calendars. The Google API is a bit of a moving target, and so they haven't quite made that bidirectional yet, as far as I can tell. But I'll actually know more about that within a week too, because I wanted to test on my Mac first, and I'll be checking it out with Google as well, because we do understand, and the folks at OpenText understand that there are people who are in hybrid systems, and it would be really handy if you could see some of your other resources. So I'm answering these questions kind of quickly, and I may skip over a couple just in the interest of time, because I do want to show you some things. So there's a question here from Jim Anderson, CalDAV integration with Google Calendars. That's the same question, I think. So the answer is eventually, but not 100% yet, Jim. Connie, Connie Tobolsky has a question about attaching a Pages file to a first-class message. That's more like a tech support question, Connie, and the answer is it should work, and it works for me. So we'll try to figure out why it doesn't work for you. It may be a client version issue. And Barbara Nepholz says heard reports that First Class Go was a data hog. If that's the case, I'm not aware of it. I use it all day, every day, Barbara. And I just spent a week in Vermont, and the only connectivity that I had was very slow network link through my iPhone, and I think I used 700 megs in the whole week. So I don't think it is a data hog. Most of the forms and whatnot are resident, so on your device. So what's passing back and forth is essentially text files. So I don't think that it's a data hog. It doesn't appear that way to me. But I'll take a further look at it, and I'll ask some other folks that are using it a lot.
And Greg, an important distinction there is a lot of people have been using First Class Go to refer to the web interface. I would expect that if you're loading the full HTML5 website through Safari on your phone, that's going to use a lot more data than just the Go app. But we can definitely double check.
Yeah, we'll double check on that. And I think what we'll do is, since we're recording this, I should be able to remember all the questions. And I will attempt to get back to everybody with the answers to these. So just two more questions, and then I want to get on to showing you some of this stuff. FCGo is older than the FCGo version. Yes, Lori. So the question is, the FCGo wants to connect to a 12 server. The latest release of FCGo, when they released it, it didn't want to talk to a 12.0 server. So they immediately fixed that and released a new one. So make sure that you've got the very latest version, Laurie. And your question about, will Kannon update your hosting server? The answer there is yes. I'm not looking at the schedule for that yet, but the answer to that is yes. We typically wait for a service pack before we upgrade a lot of the servers, just to be on the safe side. And we now have a service pack of the 12.1 server is in beta, so I'm expecting that we're going to give the go-ahead to upgrade some of those. But they did, the first release of the 12.1 Go client had a bug in it so that it wouldn't talk to an older version of of FCWS, but they released a new one that does fix that. And Mark's question about the time frame for rolling out 12.1 to hosted servers, you get the same answer as I just gave to Laurie, Mark. And for all of you whose servers are hosted at either Aptiris or Kannon, we're going to scurry around and upgrade those as soon as we feel like the software is fully baked. And I expect that that'll be pretty soon. Usually we go when there's a service pack released. And we will, of course, we'll do that in communication with all of you folks so that you're not going to come in one morning and find out that everything is updated to 12.1. We'll communicate with you about when would you like us to do it, what you can expect for downtime, what you can expect for changes, if any, and so on. So we'll be doing that over the next couple of months, we think.
Good. And Greg, I'd like to address Ryan's question, and then let's do the demo. We can take more questions after that. Ryan asks, he said he just downloaded the FCGo app and it's refusing to connect to the 12.0 server. An important distinction is that the Go client does connect to first-class web services, which, depending on your environment, that may be running on the same box as your core server, or it may be running on a different box, or if you're running this yourself on premise, you may or may not have set up web services. But it's important to note that when you give people instructions for Go, you have them connect to your web services address. So Ryan, that's something to consider. And if we need to, we can troubleshoot this as a tech support call offline.
Okay, Gary, did you see the note here from Craig Nansen?
I did not.
Yeah, it's the last message in. So while you're absorbing that,
okay,
let's jump over and I'll show you some of the stuff. Oops.
Well, that's less than ideal. I'll see if I can get something out.
Okay.
For those.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump over into a 12.1 little demo of some of these new things so that you, some of you people can see what I'm talking about. And with any luck, yep, I'm watching on another monitor, so that's showing up all at the same time. Sometimes at this point, I'm not going to take the time to do it today, but I will do it if anyone would like a better tour of the full interface, and some of the things that have changed. I know many of you have never actually seen the first-class web services interface in 12.0 or 12.1, but this is it anyway. So we've got your what we call a personal information manager on the left. The middle section is conferences and communities. The lower section is what we call external apps, and I'll give you a quick look at one of those here in a minute. And the upper section is favorite places. And if I remember to, I'm going to give you a little tip on moving things around in the web interface. And of course, over on the right, we've got the social aspects, the my people and their status updates, and so on and so forth. And I can tell you that the My People has been enormously valuable in joining our two organizations together, because just about everybody in both companies works from a home office. And of course, the people at Aptiris and the people at Kannon, for the most part, haven't met each other. So we can see who's there and who's working, and so on. So I've lost track of the things that I was going to show you first. So let me jump right in and show you the web dev, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So I'm going to open up a first-class community here, and some of this is actually this is a working server. This is my account, somewhat cleaned up. Those of you know me have seen my desktops in the past, and it doesn't really look like this. So I've got this little quick folder here where I hide everything before I show you. Anyway, so this is what a first-class community looks like in first-class 12.1. And a community is a conference and then some. So it has a feed, which is a discussion area. It's got a files upload area, and it has a wiki where we can work on. It's a jointly editable document. It's not real-time jointly editable, but I can make an edit, then Gary can make an edit, and so on. And what I wanted to show you was this new thing about WebDAV, where I can make edits to a WebDAV-enabled file, such as Microsoft Office, OpenOffice, all those freeware Office things, and as well as the Mac things, Pages and Keynote and so on, are all WebDAV-enabled. And what it means is I can select this file that was uploaded, and if I come over onto the right-hand side here, I have this new item. It's a menu type, and this is one of the things that'll puzzle your regular people more than anything else. This little stack of lines here is actually a menu, and we refer to it as a sandwich or a hamburger menu because it looks like a sandwich or a hamburger. And if I click on this, I get several choices drop down, one of which is WebDAV URL. And if I select that, that makes a URL to this point on the server. And if I copy that and then jump over to Excel, which I think I've got open. And in Excel, I can go to, and this is on a Mac. It looks slightly different on Windows. For some reason, it's way more confusing to find this link on Windows. You go to the Open dialog, and there's a place to put in the file name. That works. So I'm going to go to Open URL and paste in the URL here. Click on Open, and it's going to, with any luck, go ahead and download that file. Open it up in Excel, and I can make changes to it. And when I make the changes and I hit the Save button, that's actually going to save the changes back into the chiming noise you might have heard, is the changes being saved back into the community on First Class. That's interesting. It should have locked that file. That figures. Do a demo and things don't work right. So this file should have been locked while I had it open, so that somebody else would know that it was somebody else had it open, who had it open. Maybe I closed it. I don't know. But anyway, we've got the version number has changed here. So I saved my changes back in. We've got there's the one that's the saved one isn't locked. So there's the lock that tells the other people that they can't use it yet. And we've got the different versions of this file that have been saved, and we can revert back or keep the changes however we want to do it, so that we're able to work together. There's a lock. We're able to work together in a much richer way than if we, as you all know, if you have a spreadsheet and you email it to everybody, and somebody downloads the spreadsheet and makes changes to it. Now there are two completely different spreadsheets, and nobody knows which one is the right one. This will help you get around that whole circumstance. Any questions about that before I talk about the next thing? Let's see. The same issue. Go won't connect to the server. All right, so we'll figure that out. Okay, and I will give you, Laurie, a detailed tour of the web interface. Gary and I both talked a little bit too much. But let me refer back to our PowerPoint here and see what I'm missing. CalDAV, we did that. WebDAV, I talked about that. The like and rate. All right, so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take a quick look at like and rate and assigning a calendar task just so that you can see that. And I think that in the course of doing that, I'll be able to give you a better view of how the whole thing is set up. Oops. Come on, there we go. Okay. So do I have it? I don't know whether I have it set up in here or not. No, there's no liking or rating set up in that community. Gary, do you know off the top of your head where we've got one set up with liking and rating?
Just a moment. I thought we had done that. Kannon staff. Nope. Hang on.
I knew I was skipping stuff.
Try the marketing community. Oh, you don't have it on your.
Yeah, I will.
Maybe you can get
I
through
will.
quick.
Oh, this will let me show you something else. So I've got some. I have a folder that's hidden down inside of a folder that I made on my desktop. Is it the marketing? Yeah. Okay. Now
Yep, marketing.
I want to move it someplace else. So here's something. This was totally unintuitive. So this is one of the reasons I want to show it to you. If I select it here and I want to move it back out to my desktop, there's no obvious way to do that. However, if I drag it up to recent places, that does not include my desktop. Wait a minute. Well, we'll put it in there and then I'll move it again. So I just moved that by dragging it up to recent places. I dropped it on top of the sales and marketing, and I should be able to show it to you in there anyway. No, maybe I've got my desktop back. No, not my mailbox, you silly. How am I doing? Go away. Does this have? Yes. Okay. So this has likes. So here's a post, and I would like to like it, and I have there we go. Click on that. There we go. So I can like it or I can dislike it. Unlike Facebook, where I got one choice, I can like it or I can dislike it simply by clicking on it, and that makes the sharing of information, the ability to kind of be social about it, pretty well. Okay, so looking at the questions here. So Gary, can you take a look at the questions while I carry on with the tour here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have one request for more detailed tour of the web interface, and what I might suggest is that could make for a good follow-on webinar. I don't know that we have time for the full demonstration of web services today, but I think for us to set up another time when we can take you through in detail what is in the new web interface, what they've updated, and for those of you that haven't seen it, what all it can do. There's a lot of very nice functionality in the new web interface. So I'm going to suggest
and I would while we're on that subject, Gary, I would like to point out that one of the things that 12 started in 12.0 and of course is still there in 12.1 is this concept of external apps, which allows us to link the first class interface, the first class desktop, to external apps. And there's a couple of good ways to get a clear look at the interface. One is to click on this YouTube tutorials that our good friend Stuart Lynch put together, which actually is a connection to an open text YouTube channel where we can select a video and it'll play right here in the web interface, including in the Go clients on the various devices. So this is a good place for you to get an introduction to what's there. And also Stuart Lynch has just put together I think it's a 12-part course on what's new in version 12.1. And I'll send you all out a link to that as well. And we'll schedule, I think it makes sense for us to schedule a good tour of First Class 12 and have that be the entire session for one of these GoToWebinar things in the very near future. And Gary will make sure that I remember that I told you that, so that we'll get that scheduled out.
Okay, good. The other items that are coming in as questions, there's some really tech support questions, people having trouble getting connected with Go. And again, I think we probably want to troubleshoot that specific to the organization. So Lori is reporting she's having trouble connecting with Go to her web services. We should take a look at that. And then a tech support question on calendar items, the ICS that's being produced by 12.1, having some issues when exchanging calendar events with Outlook or Mac users.
Ah,
So let's again. The good news is we've got these things written down, so we can follow up individually on those tech support items.
okay, good, good. Gary, would you talk for 2 minutes? I just noticed that I neglected to plug my laptop in, and if I don't plug it in right away, then we're going to be very unhappy in a couple of minutes.
Okay, okay. So yeah, actually, at this point, I think what we probably want to do is take additional questions, and we have a question here from Greg about should first class Go work with our 12.0 server? Um, and the short answer on that is if with your 12.0 server you also have first class web services up and running, the latest Go client should work with that. If it's not connecting, the first thing to do is check that you've got the latest web services. And then in addition, you want to make sure that you've got the latest version of that Go client. But if you've got both those things in place and it's not working, then again, it's a tech support issue. You probably need to dig into your specific circumstance. Um, are there other questions that we can address right now?
Hey Gary, it's Kirsty. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
All right, I'm an organizer, which is why I can speak. Sorry, guys. There was a question that I think got passed over about how can FC Connect use Google Drive. We're still working out the kinks with that, right?
Yes.
Yes. How can First Class connect to and use Google Drive? Yeah, so you've got a site that's going to be using Google Docs for students, and there is, in fact, there's a plugin. You can see down here at the bottom of the apps section on Greg's screen, we've got an icon there called Google Drive. And this is a plugin that the first class developers have built. I don't know, Greg, we don't have it fully configured on your server, do we?
No, but I have it fully configured on my account on First Class Online.
Wonderful. Why don't, yeah, if you don't mind logging in so we can show that off. What the widget does is it uses the Google API to allow you to view the content of your Google Drive, which is awfully handy. You can even take content and move it back and forth between First Class and your Google Drive account. So give Greg a chance to log in. So this is Greg's First Class Online account where they do have it configured.
So I just clicked on an icon. It's going to ask me to, it's going to ask me to, anybody remember the password?
Yeah. And typically it will only do this once. Once you've done this and it has that ticket, it won't prompt you a second time. Or if you're already logged into Google on another tab, it doesn't provide that prompt at all.
There you go. So there's my Google Drive. One thing is in the current version of this, it allows me to download or open documents in the Google Drive, but it's not bi-directional, so I can't edit this. And the folks at OpenText have told us that's because Google won't let third-party apps edit docs in the Google Drive. But in terms of being able to share the documents and pass them or have access to things, that definitely does work.
Great, thank you. All right. Oh, we've got a number of new questions here. We've got a question from Tim about the cloud backup solution. Greg, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so and while I'm at it, I'm seeing that some people missed the beginning of the thing. Apparently, we sent out two different pieces of connection information. And for those of you who joined us late, we are recording this, and so with any luck, not too long after we get done today, I'll have access to the recording, and we'll figure out what's the best way to give you all access to it.
Yeah, so we will send out an email with a correct link to the video.
Okay.
I apologize for that for those of you that are coming in late. We got that wrong.
So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but and we certainly can reach out in great detail with to Tim. But we have partnered with a cloud provider, cloud backup provider, and we've arranged to have cloud backup done for all the computers on your network, including servers, not necessarily including a first-class server if you're still running your own, but that's only because it's just so darn big. You know, if you got a terabyte of first-class server with 17 gazillion files in it, that's not a pretty picture. Uploading that to the cloud anywhere, so you probably really ought to be backing up somewhere locally and taking a copy down the street so you can get it back fairly quickly. But anything else, SQL databases, end users, computers, whatever. So we're able to provide backup to the cloud, restoration from the cloud at a single cost per location. So if you've got 5 buildings, that would be 5 different locations. If you've got 1 building, that would be 1 location. And it can be backed up periodically or continuously. Things can be backed up and restored that way. We have a single price for unlimited storage, so we don't charge per stored gigabyte or anything like that. We started doing it that way, but it just made everybody crazy trying to keep track of what the costs are. So we'll quote you a single cost. It's a monthly cost, although we have an annual plan as well if you'd rather do that. And it's unlimited storage and unlimited restoration from storage, unless what you want to restore is a terabyte worth of something, in which case we'll have to send you a drive in order to do that. And so there would be a cost for that. And we'd be happy to reach out to anybody that's interested in that service. We'd be happy to reach out and talk to you in detail about what it is and get you a quote for that. And that's available today if you want. So you can email Gary or myself, and we'd be happy to have one of us or one of our sales staff will get back to you very quickly.
We've got a question here about upgrades. When upgrading to 12.1, the question is, do I upgrade IS first and then the server, or the server first, IS and then archive? Kiersey, since you're on the line, do you want to touch on that?
Maybe not. I'll touch on it.
Sure. Sorry, I had to unmute.
Yeah, go ahead, Kirsten.
Okay, so sorry about that. Actually, I'm gonna have to look it up because I can't remember I can't remember the order offhand unless Greg wants to grab it.
I remember. Yeah, upgrade IS first. There's something in IS that you either need to do them all at the same time, Samuel,
right,
or if you're going to do them like one day upgrade one and then another day upgrade the other, do IS first. If you're going to do all 3 of them at the same time, it doesn't matter. But if they're not going to be done at the same time, do IS first. Otherwise, a fix that's in IS won't get enabled because it gets enabled on startup if it's talking to the 12.1 server. I hope that made some sense. Yeah, so just do them all at the same time, Sam. But if you don't, do IS first.
Okay, great. And then we've got a question from Craig. He joined late and he's asking, will the calendar sync with Google Calendars?
Sort of. Sort of is the best answer that I can give you now. We've got it so that we can connect your first-class server to the Google Calendar, and the Google Calendar events will appear in the first-class calendar, but I haven't gotten it to the point yet where it'll be a true sync, where it'll be bidirectional and an actual sync. Okay, but we can overlay, just like with a punch-through calendar, we can overlay that Google Calendar. And I suppose while I'm answering that question, I can, with any luck, I'll be able to show you.
Right.
So it's simple in the web interface calendar. Simply add Google Calendar and then deal with an error message. I don't know what that error message means. So let's presume that maybe, but I'm not probably going to be able to show it to you. So but maybe, who knows? So we're going to show the Google Calendar. And how about this one? There are no events in my Google Calendar for today. The last time I used my Google Calendar was a month ago. As you can imagine, I'm not a big fan of Google, so I don't use it very much.
But generally speaking, punching the Google event into a first-class calendar, that part is working pretty reliably today. It's the other direction, I think, that's right, the bidirectional sync that's a challenge right now.
Yes.
Right. Okay. We've got a question from Heidi. If she's not wanting to use the new features, by which I assume you're meaning the web services, can you continue to use first class as you have it today? And the answer there is yeah, absolutely. We've got plenty of clients that are saying, look, we're not ready for the web interface yet. They're continuing to use the desktop client, and there's no issue with that at all. We also have lots of clients that are excited about the web interface, so that's good too. If you guys like it, we hope it's useful to you, and there is some nice stuff there. So we are rapidly approaching 2 o'clock. Any other questions for this afternoon?
Looks like one more got added.
Thank you. Okay. So the question here, we use a work group for our school board meetings. In the client, they see the items in alphabetical order. We name them so they come in the order on the agenda. In the first class app, they appear from most recent to oldest, not in alphabetical order. It says fixed in first class Go. I'll need to double check it in Go. I do know that for web services, you can tell the server to present items using the layout view from the server. This is one of the checkboxes in the permissions form for the conference, for the community, and the web client does respect that. We'll need to double check if Go respects that also, but I expect it should.
I think it does. It's pretty much the same thing.
Right, right. So I think as long as you've got that use layout view from server, you should be in good shape on that. So, all right, great. Well, thank you for joining us. And if you do have any questions, individual support questions, questions on any of what we've talked about today, Greg and I are certainly available. We'd love to talk with you more. And did we ask about other topics? We should do that.
Yeah, we should probably ask about other topics.
Okay. So if, say, we were to hold another webinar a few weeks from now, a month from now, what requests do you have? What would you like to see, or what would you like us to talk about? I'm just going to ask you if you would to go ahead and put those suggestions either in the chat or the questions area.
Well, one we have already is for a full tour of the FCWS, and we'll do that. And this is the end of April, right? So before the end of May, we'll have that one scheduled.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
One question that did get asked is where will the recording of this be posted?
I don't know yet, but we'll let you know. So
yeah.
We have a list of everybody that was in attendance, or at least everybody that registered today. And once the recording is up, we'll send out an email to everybody to tell you how to get it.
Great.
Changes to the profile or resume. Craig, could you be more specific? I'm not too sure what you mean there.
Oh, I do have some background on that request. So the fields, the default fields that are in the profile now, which also show inside first class, inside the client, really aren't applicable to their environment. They're an education institution. A lot of what's there they don't want. And so the question is, are there going to be changes to that, or is there a way to modify that form? And I think the short answer on that is that we're able to make some changes in the client, but I don't know that we can change that on the web at present.
Well, I think I know what you mean. The forms, the ability to modify the first class forms is supposed to be delivered in 12.1 or 12.2 rather. Which is not necessarily the same thing as we can't do it yet. but I'd want to. I seem to have go to meeting has broken my web services here. So when in doubt, we'll bring. So that's actually a good thing. We want to learn about that one also. I believe it's doable, but I don't think any of us have attempted to do it yet, Gary.
Right. Okay. So we can find out about that. All right. Well, thank you again. We've run a bit long, but thanks, and I hope this was valuable to you. And again, let us know if you've got any other questions, and we will be following up shortly with an email that lets you know the link for the full video and hopefully some answers to the questions that we need to check on. But thanks, and have a great afternoon.
Great. Thanks, folks. We look forward to working with you as a new company.
Yes.
Okay. Goodbye.
All right. Thanks.